in my attempt to expand my coverage into the game of football and other teams, I'm kicking it off again. It's been a little while with some coverage of the Ravens and Chiefs game. And whatever fan you are of whatever team, even my beloved Dolphins fans, this is going to pertain to you for a number of reasons. I love studying the game itself. Most people fixate on this quarterback did that, this guy did that, and that's all obviously in the books. It's hugely critical. But why? Why did these things happen? How did they happen? And what drove these effects is more important to me for creating an evaluation to predict the future and see why things are happening. And I hate to say it, if you are not a fan of the Chiefs and Mahomes, there's some concerning stuff in the underneath of this performance. I'm going to dig in deep onto that. And it's a trend that will not make the opposition of the Chiefs happy. And unfortunately for the Ravens fans, there's a lot that goes into this thing. There was some weird calls. You can't really blame the game on that. I do think that last pass to Flowers, he was supposed to settle into the zone. There was one just before he threw and just kind of threw it out there. There was things that he left on the table, obviously. But when you look at the underneath situation of the Baltimore Ravens, there's concerning trends for them. And I'm going to do matchups of statistical analysis, and it's going to be graphics so you can kind of get it, of their matchup in the conference championship last year, their matchup in week 1 of the 2024 season, and then a comparison of their overall production of last season to kind of show that where these teams are heading. And then I'm going to give you my reason why. Savvy, comprendez-vous. I got some really good details for you here, and I think they're very compelling. So please like, subscribe, comment. Comments mean a ton for me. Subscriptions, if you have subscribed, hit the notification bell, because all that keeps me doing the business I do. So I want to give you guys a shout out and a shout out to my sponsor, because without you, this show ain't going down. Ace Per Head's betting software is the premier white label platform for bookies to manage their players and grow their sportsbook operation. Click the link in the description below to get set up in minutes. Ask for the Curtis promo and get a special introductory discount. All right, I know Spag should have had a penalty called on him. Shouldn't have got that timeout. I don't understand how that didn't happen. Juwan Taylor, I showed even during on the Twitter thing, he's offside all the time. This whole thing about the heads being imbalanced as far as the alignment of the offensive line. You could see the Chiefs didn't do it all the time. It was weird called game. You might even want to say the hands to the face for Mahomes, and the holding call by Lindbaum that negated the long run by Lamar. But you can't control that. You can't. And what you can do is just dial into the information. And I'm going to try to do that here. And I'm going to start with Lamar. So you can see in these graphics here, this was Lamar's night last night. And when you compare them to what happened in their matchup last year and in his season last year, you're going to see some compelling stuff. Now, his kept clean rate was 70%, which is very, very good. But look at the yards per attempt in the red highlight, the red circle, 6.8 per attempt in 24 and 7.8 in 23. And you'll see his time to throw is 2.84, which is very high. So kept clean, while if that was pure blocking, is good, it also shows that with those low yards per attempt, that he was holding the ball, trying to find guys that weren't there. Then you see the under pressure rate was 29.4. When blitzed, 25.5. So the blitz rate was less than the pressure rate. And that usually talks about productive pressure. But then you go to the yards per attempt, under pressure 7, 8.3 in 23. So it's a diminishing. And then when blitzed, about the same. Overall, though, to start off the season, is a long way to go. It was 6.7, 7.9. Now, if you notice the play action, even the play action, it was 6.4 yards per attempt. 23.5 play actions, 13.7. And if you don't understand that teams, they make calls for a reason. Play action, for the most part, is to add in protection, screens, and mitigate pass rush. Now, so that you're talking right there, he had 37% of his passes, which put limited guys in routes and were there to uplift this offensive line that took a hit. You guys lost Morgan Moses. He went to the Jets, and Zietler went someplace. I think the Lions. I can't remember where he went. Both these guys were good players for you. And I think what you're going to see here is that the offensive line diminishing is causing him to struggle quite a bit. And it's not just that. It's that once teams realize, hey, this offensive line can't do this and that, we can do this and that as well. And so you can see that under pressure was 29 and blitz 25. But if you go back to the season last year, you can see in this graphic, it was 36 and 37. So he got less pressure. His clean time to throw went up, but look at the time to throw. It was 2.84 compared to 2.62. So he even had more time, but still couldn't get the depth. And I think a lot of it had to do with, if you look at the dropping of the pressure and the blitz rate, that really allows you to put more guys in coverage. And so you have to ask yourself, what's the situation? Why is this not happening? And I think some of it, if you can go back and you look, and I showed this video here of where the play action happened off the run, and you can see them crammed into the box, and you see Lamar had a good night other than that. But for the most part, while they blitzed, they played over coverage, took away the mediums and the deeps, and this forced him to hold, check down, and come back underneath. And a lot of it was because they are not concerned. They weren't highly concerned with the running attack. He had a great night running the football, but that's not going to break down a defense. And if this offensive line doesn't have Zietler and doesn't have Morgan Moses, they can't run the football. Even when you got an amazing running back like Henry, you need to run the football to drive this team. And so you're seeing a compression of the impact of the pass game. You're seeing a little bit of lowering here of what KC does compared to the rest of the league in far as pressures. While they're the same, it was 30% last year, 29 this year, 25. The effect was to hold off this pass game in the deep and medium range and force him to check off. And there was a lot of talk about that in the announcers. Now, can it improve? Well, it depends on how this offensive line begins to develop. I think there was some injuries on the offensive line. But you could see Lamar look desperate. He was running out of desperation, had to sacrifice his body more and more to get this offense on track. And I don't know if this offensive line doesn't get where it needs to be and start producing better in the run game, then I don't think you're going to see this yards per attempt rise higher against the lesser teams. This team is good enough to destroy average, above average teams with their capacity, with their ability on both sides of the ball. But can they do it against the good teams? Now, speaking of good teams, I don't want to see a three-peat. I don't have any animus to the Chiefs, but who wants that? I mean, if you're not a Chiefs fan, you're not rooting for it. And if you are a Chiefs fan, somebody else was doing it, you root against it. But Mahomes, one of the biggest things that Mahomes, the knock on him, was it took him a while to get the ball out. He was slow to deliver at times, whether you could say it was on him or the system or whatever. But when I show you these numbers, he's getting the ball out ultra fast. It allowed them to have 5 guys on the line of scrimmage and put 5 guys in coverage. And just like the talent drop-off for the Ravens hurt Lamar, there was a little bit of a boosting of talent here on the offensive line, which already had a good offensive line, except Taylor. I think the new kid, the rookie, Salamateo, I'm screwing it up, played pretty good, and he's going to get better, okay? And he was better than the kid last year. But when you have Rashid Rice and Worthy, they're able to create leverage. And if you're a Dolphins fan, you understand this. Look at what Waddle and Hill are able to do for Tua. And so if you look at Mahomes, it's very, very concerning. Now, you can see his drop back percentage. He's under pressure 32% of the time, which is not hot to trot. He's kept clean 67%. But look at that blitz rate right below that blue box, only 12.9. And last year, they blitzed him 30%. That's almost an 18% drop. Although the pressure is the same, it's an 18% drop in the blitzing. But look at the yards per attempt, 10.4, under pressure 10.5, and when blitzed 4.3, which is not hot to trot. But look at the time to throw compared for 23 and 24 at 2.17. You're getting into some of the fastest throwing in the league in that area. And it was he cut it by almost 18 seconds compared to 23. And if you remember that one quick slant that he got and drove it in there, that's the kind of stuff that puts defenses on their heels and kind of has them pull back from the blitz. Under pressure, it's hard to really analyze that because he's a movement quarterback, but it dropped. It was much quicker delivery. And then when blitzed, look at the blitz rate delivery, 2 point. And that's why you're getting the small yards per attempt. But this allowed him not to take a sack and not run around. He got some production out of that and got it out quick. But that's a drop of 20.22 seconds. Big time stuff. And you go back and you look at last year, the time to throw was in there. Well, if you look at his full season, you can see the back to it, but you can look and see here. His kept clean was 2.35, when blitz 2.40. So the Ravens took off the blitz and they tried to play shell, and he burned him. Yards per attempt 9.1, 6.6 no play action, 5.9 screen. All that stuff went up. Go back and look at this over here, the passing concept, play action. 19. They dropped the amount of play action they had. Well, a little bit, but still, that's a pretty low play action. 19.4. My team, the Dolphins, have 30, for example. Screens. These are small amounts. About 32% pass mitigating play calls. But look at those yards per attempt. And if you go back and you look at when they played each other last year, you can see here yards per attempt was on play action 6.3. It was 9.8. In this game. Last year it was only 6.3 when they had head-to-head matchups. And so when you see that, you look at the passing pressure of last year in general, Mahomes is able to get that ball out quicker along with the deep throw, along with Andy Reid's ability to scheme up calls, along with the inside run game, a quality offensive line. And Mahomes be able to do the chicken with his head cut off and buying time. And now with Worthy and Rashid Rice, they're creating leverage, and teams are, well, at least in this first week, a blitz-happy team is being reluctant to attack Mahomes, and Mahomes is able to deliver that ball quick, get it out, and have huge production in yards per attempt. This is concerning because now the last little bit, the little issue that you could really talk negatively about Mahomes looks like it could start to come off the table. And that would be bad because then you blitz him, you get hurt. You drop back, you get hurt. It kind of limits your options on what to do. So I hope you enjoyed this. This is a schematic move by KC to the addition of Worthy just in himself, his production is one thing, but what he allows Reid and this offense to do, and what he kind of starts helping with Rashid Rice to force DCs to pick their poison on both ends, it is very, very concerning, and it's in the early goings. Will it trend in this way? I don't know. But this is not good news for those who are hoping he doesn't get a three-peat and have to go face him. Again, on the other side, Lamar, he's a good quarterback. Obviously, I think it shows the value of the offensive line in a run game. You've got Henry. He's got to get more attempts. You've got to have better play calls. Some of the play calls I didn't think were all that inspired. But this is an offensive line-driven team, and right now that offensive line is herky-jerky, and I think it's limiting the things that can be done on the Ravens side. Both these teams are very, very tough. Both these teams will be in the mix in the conference. But I do think that right now KC has the edge. So anyway, hope you enjoyed. Curtis saying, be well, go Fins. Oh, I can't say it anymore, okay? Anyway, this is Curtis saying, be well, Curtis out. Start building your own online sports book today by getting signed up with aceBread.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.